You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I hope wherever you are in the world and whatever you're doing, you are doing very well. This is my discussion with the bloke called Rob Cavestany. He's an outstanding guitarist and an even better bloke from a band called Death Angel. Death Angel are touring with Sepultura across Australia. I'm going to read out some dates. They're all in May. Tuesday the 15th, they're playing Melbourne at 170 Russell. Wednesday the 16th, they're playing Adelaide at the Gov, or the Gov, or the Gov. Either way, you know what I'm talking about. Friday the 18th, they're playing Brisbane at Eaton's Hill Hotel. Hopefully I'll get along to that one. Saturday the 19th, they're playing Sydney at the Metro Theatre. And finally, Sunday the 20th of May, they are playing Perth at Capital. Let's get to it. Here he is, Mr. Rob Cavestany. Australia and May, I know you've answered this question plenty of times already, but just for my benefit and the people, because I host a podcast series, so I'll have listeners from all over the world, particularly in your part of the world, ironically, there in North America, but... You're coming to Australia in May. You're performing with the legend Sepultura, and you're a legend in a legendary band as well. So it's a fantastic double bill. What sort of show are you bringing down to Australia? And are there songs that you find go very well in front of Australian audiences that you'll be playing?
Well, first of all, we're insanely excited to come to Australia. It's a rare treat for us. We tour a lot, but we do not get to tour down there nearly enough. So yeah, it's been 4 years since we were there with Creator. That's far too long in my book. But it is what it is, and we're happy that we got these shows coming up now. And of course, with the mighty Sepultura, the package is obviously going to be insane. And yeah, it's still a little bit of a ways away, so we haven't really decided on our exact set list yet. That'll come soon to the time when we start getting into our live rehearsals for that. But definitely that's one of my most fun things I love doing is putting the set list together. That's my job. And I love assembling the set list. And we'll definitely play songs off hopefully all of our albums if we have enough time to. I'm thinking we will. So we'll hit every album, and it'll be a well-rounded set. It'll be from
awesome.
My point of view, the best of what will fit in the moment. And also, within the night with Sepultura, that has something to do with it too. So I'm picturing, what their set might be like and what our set will be like. So we'll complement each other musically and have a nice variety and good flow for the show, for the fans in attendance. But we'll definitely be playing songs from our latest album, The Evil Divide, because that's we've been supporting on tour over the last couple of years, and those songs are very fresh to us. But yeah, our set will be fucking killer. I guarantee you that.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, I mentioned right at the beginning that I do like to do some different things for my interviews, and I like to keep them a bit different. And you have been the mainstay in Death Angel for 35 years, which is an incredible accomplishment, really. And there are 2 phases in the band's history, but 3 phases for you. So from 1982 to 1991 and 2001 to the present, that involves Death Angel. So the 90s were a very hard era for heavy metal bands, and I've had long conversations with Blitz from Overkill, Miller from Creator, and Schmidt from Destruction about the 90s. Now, you decided to do something about it, because a lot of fans won't recognise or realise that you were the front man of a band called The Organisation for a good part of the 90s, a band that I got into, because I'm a funk metal diehard, you see. I'm one of the only ones around, I find. So I still find plenty to like about the 2 albums that you released. So there's the self-titled album and Savour the Flavour. So what's your take as you look back on that episode of your career? And sorry about the long narrative there. I just was so keen to ask you this question.
No, that's a great narrative. I'm glad you put that out there. And I actually have a very soft spot in my heart for the organization. That was an amazing moment in life when that was happening. Unfortunately, it just got caught in the middle of a weird moment in time of music. And we never were able to. People were puzzled by that band. They wanted Death Angel, and we couldn't escape the shadow of what we had already built as Death Angel. And in our minds, we were moving beyond that band, and that's why we didn't call ourselves Death Angel, even though 4 out of the 5 members
Yeah.
were in that band, because we just really wanted to do something different and something new that we were doing then, and it was not, in our minds, a continuation of Death Angel. But the fact is that what we couldn't comprehend in the moment of time, because we were inside of the thing. But when you look back, of course, you know, you have the hindsight and you can see more clearly what the big picture of things looked like, and maybe from other people's point of view. And yeah, people just would come to realize that we were the guys from Death Angel, and then once that happened, then they're just at our shows screaming for Death Angel songs like the whole time.
Yeah.
And we refused to play any of them because we had this like totally stubborn headspace where we're like, no way, like those guys are dead now. This is us now, and there's no way that's ever gonna happen. Like, you forget about it. You won't even hear a fucking riff from that band because we're moving forward from that. And it was a real clash of ideals happening between what people expected of us and what we were trying to do. So, but we, you know, at least in the very, you know, for the first 80% of the existence of that band, we didn't give a fuck. So it felt really good because we just didn't care. Like, you're in this, like, you know, young, even still back then, we were still young.
Yes. Yeah, people don't realise how young you were even back then. You were probably only in your mid-20s by then, weren't you?
We were only in mid-20s. We were already, like, over with one band that we had been in for 8 years and 3 albums, and on to our next band. And we had gone through so much shit, like, in the ending part of Death Angel, where stuff just got, you know, real and ugly, and the various negative aspects of this music industry were being discovered by us and in our young selves. We just did not want any of that shit. We just wanted to just jam, have fun playing music, and screw all this business side of music that was getting in the way of everything. So we just wanted to break free from everything and just be these, like, fucking bohemian musicians just running around, not caring too much about the business side of it, and trying to get back to the love of music that we originally had when we discovered music and formed our band to begin with. So in our minds, it was that. And so we had this real, we don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about us attitude. And it lasted for a good while until, yeah, you know, life.
Yeah,
until life.
Reality bites. Doesn't it?
Pretty soon, you know, we're just driving ourselves around in the van and fucking barely able to exist, and like there's no support happening for the organization as there was with Death Angel. And not to mention, metal in of itself, like you said at the beginning, was like fragmenting and disappearing, and the whole scene of it all was getting all weird, and we were just swirling in it. And then at one point it just broke us down. It's just the sad part again is the last chapter, where it was just like, fuck this, man. This is just, we can't live like this. Like, we're struggling, staying on people's couches all over the world, you know, like just like living totally punk rock and getting older day by the day. And it just crushes your soul at one point in time, to that moment where you're just like, this can't go on. Like, there's no way. Like, we can't survive this way. We're like, we're crumbling, like, financially or whatever, you know what I mean? Not even musically. Like, we wanted to play music still. We wished we could have kept going. It just there was no more reality for it. Like, we were just putting everything we got into it and going home and suffering day by day in a starving musician's reality.
Yeah.
So it just got brutal, and we had to pack it up, and it was sad. But then after that, I played in all kinds of other different projects with, you know, I had a band. Me and Mark and Andy were in a band called Swarm for a minute there, and we just did other things, just trying to have fun with music and not get back into the grind of the game, the battle of existence, to try to do it for a living. And so that whole part was a struggle musically, like music business wise, but at the same time it was fun because it was just free and devoid of fighting about all this shit in the industry part. And so now we do that part again, but it's okay because our band is substantial at this point, and
Yeah,
that
you're a
fucking
big deal now.
that fucking
Yeah,
rules.
yeah.
So now we've learned to accept the good with the bad, and you go through all these different eras of your life where you are learning by the mistakes that are being made and learning by experiences, and finally you come to a point where you learn to be very thankful for things. So we just focus on just appreciating what we have in this moment, and therefore we're able to deal with all the other bullshit that goes along with it.
I think I've got time for one more question. So I've been wanting to ask you this for a while too, because my household is, we're a Filipino household in that my wife's half Filipino and she's very close to that side of her family. We go to the Philippines quite a bit, to the island of Cebu and to Lapu-Lapu City, where her mother's from. So I'd like to ask you this: how much of the Philippines and the culture has identifiably influenced your music? So I appreciate that you're American and born in America, but much like my wife, you have a Filipino heritage.
That's right. Did we talk about this at one time in the past?
No, no, not. This is the
Okay.
first time we're having a chat. Yeah.
Someone with a similar situation, but yeah. So well, you're a bit accustomed to the culture there.
I am indeed. Yeah.
Um, but sorry, I got so distracted picturing what you were telling me about about your life and stuff. I don't know the exact. What's the question again?
Oh, it's how much of being of Filipino heritage and the culture, because I love the culture, how much of it do you think has identifiably influenced your approach to music? Because I think one of the lovely things I like about Filipino culture, you sound like a really happy-go-lucky bloke just talking to you, and the Filipinos are very much like that. It's sort of, let's just get on with life, let's just do what we got to do, let's just be happy, and very family-centric and the like. And I think that I guess my point would be that probably attributes a lot of the attitude toward your perseverance and your staying power, because Death Angel are a legendary band. They always were in my eyes. I had your poster on my wall as a kid. Death Angel poster on my wall was in the 90s. It was one of the... I bought it from Utopia in Sydney, and I remember putting it up, and everybody used to ask me, who are these guys, And I'd put your music on, and it was like, oh, it sounds like Old Destruction or something.
Wow, that's an awesome story. Thanks for sharing that, Andrew. And actually, that is a really good question. That's a damn original question. I have not been asked that before.
Cool.
And so because of that, I never really thought about that. And as you would say that, I guess that has something to do with it. I guess that's true. I mean, culturally, Filipinos are it's all about family and food. Get together and eat.
Absolutely. That's all we do in our household is just eat all the time. My two daughters are so totally into it. I think we have about 6 or 7 meals a day.
Dude, as soon as you walk in, are you hungry? Eat now. You're like, oh, I remember it's like some friends would come over, and sometimes like my grandma was there with food, or my mom or something. They're like, my God, you can't say no to food when you come over. Like, but but that subliminally, or like it probably has something to do with keeping it together, and the longevity and the loyalty aspect of things, and the family atmosphere about the band. And that, and the fact that our band actually was family, like literally we were.
That's it. That's true. And I forgot about that when I was asking the question, but exactly what I'm talking about. Your band lived it. You're all family related.
Yeah. So that definitely makes things, in one way, it has pros and cons, man. Because in one way, yeah, you treat it in this kind of way, so it means that to you. And sometimes, though, so it might get in the way of certain things, because you require, like, you're considering that it's so that everyone needs to think it's that way too, like, so like. And nowadays, but the thing is that the newer guys that are in the band, the guys that weren't in the original band, they are very used to this kind of culture too, because they grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, which means that they grew up having tons of Filipino friends and going over their house and hanging out, and they're totally, like Will Carroll, our drummer, he grew up in Daly City, which is like this town that's just, it's like almost all Filipinos in that town. It's like,
cool.
San Francisco, and I grew up there when I was a younger kid. My family had lived there too, because that's where all the Filipinos migrate to, because there's big
That's where the
Filipino
community
community.
is, yeah.
Yeah. And Will, who's not Filipino at all, he's an Irish guy, but he grew up in that clique. So joining Death Angel for him was like normal. He's like a Filipino dude, but in a white guy's body.
Nice.
And he's so used to everything. Yeah, he's like half his friends were Filipino growing up, and so we definitely have a real family style vibe to our band, and I love it that way because you practically are. I mean, we're joined at the hip, man. We spend our whole life together. Like, God, how many hours do we live together and stuff? So at that point, we want to be like family, and that's just how a band is to me, and how we started that way. And so I'm glad that everybody lives within enough distance of each other in the Bay Area that we are still like an organic band. Like, we get together and jam as a band. Like,
Awesome.
When we work on music, we work on our music. Will come meet me at the studio, and I'll show him my new ideas, and then we'll go over like arrangements and beats and like hash it out, actually jamming together, as opposed to like just sending files over the internet and like piecing it together that way, which of course would work, but I don't know. To me, I like being able to go down and getting the human interaction and laughing about stuff with each other, and just like how you would do it when you were kids, but doing it as old people.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Don't worry. I'm just on the cusp of hitting middle age. I'm turning 40 this year, mate. And I mean, you do tend to focus on what's important, don't you? And I think having fun and enjoying life. There's probably, there are a few things that are of equal importance, but mate, that's pretty much slap bang in the middle, isn't it?
It pretty much is, man. And you just come to learn to appreciate things. You imagine how it is without this group of friends and without your band, that you can just know that at any given moment you have this confidence that you have this band together, and all we need to do is contact each other on the bat phone, and soon enough we're all together fucking making this music and as one solid unit. And and we definitely have a good laugh together, and we're family, man. That's my other family. I got my actual blood family at home, but I have my touring and music family that is as deep as it gets. So, that's our experience with a band and music, and I'm glad that that's the way that we experienced it, because it's a lot of fun that way.
All right. Well, mate, good on you. Thanks so much for giving me so much of your time. I'd love to catch up with you and just shake your hand and have a beer with you when you play Brisbane, because that's where I'm from. So definitely looking forward to catching the show in May.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you there in May in Brisbane.
No worries, mate. All right. All the best with it, and congratulations on a stellar career again.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me, and thanks for supporting Death Angel all the way since you had that poster in your room.
Mate, it's my pleasure. I've loved the music for so long, so it's just awesome to talk to legends like yourself. I spoke to a few hours ago was Zach Wilde.
Oh, really?
Yeah, had a really good conversation with him, mate. And, the one thing that I've always found with the true legends, mate, you're always so humble. Man. That's just what I notice. It's, incredible.
Well, thank you, man. Thanks for recognizing all that, and real pleasure to talk to you.
You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that was my discussion with the excellent guitarist and even better bloke out of Death Angel, Mr. Rob Cavestany. Thank you so much for listening.